engineer. Uh, that has a lot of different aspects to it that come into roller coaster engineering, and I've worked on non-roller coaster stuff a little bit, but that is my main focus in my career. I'm, totally a theme park fan, and didn't think that this was a real thing that I could do as a career up until pretty much graduation from college was when I started making some connections and finding some opportunities of like, oh, actually, this is a thing that I could do as a young person. So, um, uh, yeah, I'm a nerd about this stuff as much as I'm sure many of you are as well. So I'm delighted to have been able to have the experiences I've had so far, and I'm super excited about continuing that as well. So. Um, I have had roles all over the industry at different places and seen a lot of different things between different IAPA expos, visiting parks as a student, working internships both for parks and for ride manufacturers. I've seen a bunch of different stuff, and I'll talk about that more in detail. Um, a couple years ago, notably, I worked for Vekoma Rides, which is one of the major roller coaster manufacturers, for 2 years. So, got to work on some crazy projects during that time. Vekoma makes the roller coasters for a lot of major parks like Disney, but then also a lot of medium parks and small parks as well. Um, they've recently had a huge wave of parks and uh, projects going into North America. So they hired me to come down to Orlando and help create their new office down here and work on some local projects. I got to travel to their headquarters in the Netherlands every couple months or so, and work on a good number of things. So that was a really awesome experience. And now I've just now started in a new role about a month ago as an engineer and auditor with TÜV SÜD, which is a third-party inspector auditor certifier in some countries. Um, but basically, we come in and we help an operation to verify their compliance with the safety standards, and that all of their processes are built correctly and that they are ready to operate their ride safely within compliance with the standards. And everything that they've been giving from the manufacturer is correct and complete, and they are ready to do their operation and know and have confidence from us that they're doing that correctly in that process. So, going back to where I sort of started with this, this was a path that I envisioned for myself when I was a mechanical engineering student at Iowa State University. I grew up in Minnesota originally, went to Iowa State because they were very hands-on as far as engineering university programs went. So it was a program where I could start being involved in clubs and working on projects right away. And that was something that I was very excited about. So I envisioned like, okay, someday it would be super cool to be a roller coaster mechanical design engineer. So how am I going to get there from just being a student? So probably I'm going to have an engineering internship. I'm going to, get some general engineering experience, and then I'll try to get, a more specific mechanical design internship, get that kind of experience. Then maybe I can use that experience to get into roller coasters a bit more and do an internship working on mechanical design of roller coasters. And then with that and some extra networking, maybe I can make this happen and reach this goal of being a mechanical design engineer in coasters. And so I set out to do that. I went, okay, what can I do right now? I had heard about 3D printing. I wanted to get more into 3D printing and use it as a tool for engineering design. Not a hobby where I'm constantly working on the printer, but focusing on being able to design something and make it with the printer and then assess that design itself and improve my skills there. And then I also got involved with a bunch of different clubs at Iowa State. I did NASA robotic mining. I did a Rube Goldberg club for a bit. I did a makers group called Critical Tinkers, where we were just making kind of whatever projects we wanted, and they helped us get funding and connections with university resources to make those projects happen. So I ultimately was involved with 13 different clubs on campus throughout my 5 years in my undergrad at Iowa State. So I got very involved and did all kinds of things, none of them at all related to theme parks, but all of them exciting and interesting for me and giving me more experience. I tried to get an engineering internship, did not get any luck with that. But I did become an orientation ambassador, what we called a cyclone aide at Iowa State, where stayed around for the summer at Iowa State, helping out with the summer orientations for the new students for the next year coming in. Not at all engineering related, very customer service focused. Not something that I was doing as a stepping stone to anything. It just sounded like some fun, and it would pay me for the summer and give me some extra. We had like a year of professionalism training, which I was like, that'd be fun, be properly trained, and then I get to stick around all summer and help with this program. So that'll be cool. Next year, went to find a mechanical design internship. Couldn't get that. I was actually hired for that. I was hired as a mechanical design engineer specifically. And when I got to the job, they informed myself and another intern, hey, we uh, have this, we have a new department president, and he has this grand new plan to reorganize our structure as a manufacturing facility. And that's a job for an industrial engineer, and we don't have any industrial engineers. So congratulations, you two interns are now our industrial engineering team, and we need you to figure out how to do this thing and make it happen. So we ended up in this sort of part management role and designing a completely new system, which was not what I was there to do. I was a bit upset about it for quite a while, um, but we did some good work and we were able to come up with a system that worked really well, and they implemented over the next 4 years, almost exactly what we had designed. So, um, that worked out, but it was very frustrating at the time of like, I'm way behind. The last 2 years of stuff that I've had planned has not worked out. Uh, After that time, I started connecting with the industry and I found out about the IAPA Show Ambassador Program, which is where volunteer students and young professionals can help out to organize the entire IAPA Expo in November down here in Orlando. And that was something that I was able to directly use my orientation ambassador assistance uh, or experience for. Something that, I wasn't intending to use this towards the industry, but it turned out to be the exact qualifications that they were looking for that program. And so I was able to use that experience that I had to turn that into an experience, an opportunity in the industry. Um, Went to do a roller coaster mechanical design internship. They did not find a specific opportunity in that, but was able to find a roller coaster parts and service internship at Premier Rides. I was able to use my show ambassador connections and the fact that I had worked with part management before directly towards that parts and service role. So I ended up by complete accident having the exact right qualifications I needed for this role, which got me in the door. It uh, got me in an engineering office working on roller coasters. So that was a really exciting, not exactly according to plan, but still getting there. Things are working out. Um, from there, I got involved with ASTM F24, which is the committee that does the safety standards for the amusement industry. I visited there as an intern with Premier Rides and started meeting other students in the industry and getting a sense of like, okay, it's not just me alone in the universe. There are other people who are interested in this, and there are a lot of schools that have clubs, and there's a whole ecosystem out here. This is super cool. That summer, I also went to Maury's Piers and worked some maintenance and operations to try to get more rounded experience around engineering. So I wasn't just doing engineering, but I also had more of that hands-on experience of how do we actually use these rides, and what kind of lessons from that can I bring into engineering that I do. All that fed back into my networking. Um, I came back to Iowa State after that and created our own club, modeled after many of the other clubs that I had seen, especially Ohio State's TPEAD. They were one of the oldest ones. And they let me, come into their meetings and see how they did things and organize ourselves in a very similar way to what they were doing and found more people at Iowa State who are also interested in this and interested in theme parks, which was very exciting that it wasn't just me on my own anymore. Um, Around that time, I leveraged my 3D printing experience to create something interesting for these industry events and this networking goal that I had. And so for me, early on, I was very shy and quiet. And it was very hard for me to strike up a conversation with someone and communicate quickly that, hey, I'm interested in this. Not only am I interested, I am skilled, and I have these mechanical design skills that I can bring to your company. It was hard for me to find a way to get those words out. And so by developing this 3D printed business card that did something that a paper card could not do and leaned into the fact that it was 3D printed, to use a technology that only 3D printing could do on that scale and in that way, which was to have a roller coaster design that folds up around the outside of the card, so you get a little model roller coaster, that you come back from the event, you take it back out of the stack of business cards that you got this week, and then you build it and set it on your desk, and now my name is on your desk, and I get people to think about me after the event. Um, so yeah, using the existing skills that I had, that was the solution that worked for me. That was the opportunity that I had with my skills. For you, it will be different. It will be based on your experience and your skills, your own opportunities that you find. Then something happened. I graduated in spring of 2020. My last semester while I was working on my senior design project, I handed in a packet of drawings to our manufacturing shop to have the parts produced. And then we were informed that the room where all of our uh, assemblies were being stored was off limits to everyone. Nobody could go in there. Nobody could have any reason to meet in person on campus at any point. So our project just ended halfway through, and we had to just report on what we had done up to that point and figure out where to go from there. Um, in the industry, all of the projects were put on hold and all of the jobs disappeared overnight. There was no opportunities um, going forward. So, as someone graduating at that exact time, there was just nothing left, and it was a big question mark on what the heck am I gonna do? How am I going to keep moving when everything I was planning towards is just gone now. So we found an opportunity with the moment that we had created a communication platform between a bunch of presidents of clubs throughout the country, and we had noticed that we were doing a lot of things the exact same way. We were having the same meeting, we were having the same speakers, and we were having those speakers go and talk to like 10, 12 different clubs. It was really inefficient for the speakers. It was a lot of duplicate work for all of us. And so we were thinking about how could we work together more closely and uh, benefit in more of a shared way. And we were having those discussions before everybody ended up quarantined. And so we used that moment that everyone got pushed online to create one organized online presence that we called the Themed Entertainment Student Discord. This was right at the beginning of Discord. I had barely heard of it at this point. Um, and uh, yeah, four of us, four different presidents, we worked together to create that platform and start inviting people to it. And we started having sessions where instead of, this kind of scale where it's one speaker talking to 15 students, we had 120 students in a call. We started doing a session every single week. And so we had all kinds of these summer skills sessions, as we called them, um, information flowing and people connecting throughout that COVID time. During that time, I also created the ride engineering competition. It was an idea that was bouncing around in my head uh, for a while, and this was an opportunity of, hey, I'm, trapped inside for a whole summer. I don't have a job to do. I got nothing else to do. Let me see if I can write out a rule book and see if I can come up with a structure that makes any sense. So spent ultimately what was about 3 weeks total building the first draft of the rule book, and most of that content is still used to this day. Um, that structure turned out to work very, very well. And we have been using it ever since. And then I found a master's degree program that I could start right away. Spent 2 years doing that master's program and stayed in contact with my network and my connections. And my big connection was with Vekoma at the time. And so they ultimately had an opportunity that came up down here in Orlando, not as a mechanical design engineer, but as a design and customer engineer, which was sort of a new position that we had made up in the moment because they needed somebody who could be an engineer and also be involved in trade shows and ASTM conferences and be outward facing in that way. And in my attempts to network with people to become that engineer and find that engineering role, I had ended up going to a lot of IAPA sessions and ASTM meetings and developed a skill of being at those meetings and talking to people and uh, sharing exciting things with those people in that network. So they recognized that ability in me and hired me to help them with that in the um, new office down here in the States. Uh, so that was its own part of a presentation that we built for a career session years ago that we gave at Ames and then IAPA. Um, but I've realized there's a lot more to the story now. So I'm sliding that over and continuing with a bit more things. I ended up leaving Vekoma for I, a lot of different reasons, but the big thing was that what they were able to offer me um, no longer lined up with what I needed as an individual, which was very unexpected for me. Uh, during that whole process, I had changed as a person and I had, reached a new phase in my life where I wanted different things. And we had many, many discussions on it, and it got to a point of it just doesn't fit in their business model what I'm looking for. And so if I'm going to find that, I need to leave. And that was bittersweet, but I'm, very happy I made that decision. Um, and have been trucking on very ever since. So I ended up joining a startup company immediately after Vacoma. That startup got very shady very quickly, and I got out of there. I worked for them for 2 months. I didn't get a single penny. I was like, nope, I'm not, uh, sacrificing my life and money and happiness for this, which was outside of the industry. I was not super passionate about it. I was like, nope, that's not going to be the thing. Um, so in the meantime, stayed involved with ASTM, got involved with the restraints and cybersecurity task groups. I'd become involved with them more and more while I was at Vacoma, but I was able to stay involved with them as an expert. Um, Even as an independent contributor. And then I also continued with the ride engineering competition. Um, and I also did the next gen showcase, and I realized that isn't in here at the moment. But we continued growing the ride engineering competition and focusing on that. Um, Looked around and found a lot of opportunities that didn't pan out. It's been kind of tough in the last year or two in the industry. Things have been downsizing a bit, but uh, found a fun temporary role at Stardust Racers at Epic Universe. Ended up being on this opening uh, operations team at Epic Universe, which was a fun. It kind of felt like summer camp. It was just um, coming in very comfortable position and very fun way to spend my early summer. And uh, yep, continue staying involved with ASTM, got also involved with the anti-rollback task group, um, and continuing growing the ride engineering competition into this year. And all of that came together and helped me land this role, my new role as an engineer auditor at TÜV SÜD. Um, Being in this role, it's very important that one, I understand engineering from the manufacturer side and how they operate and what they are doing. I also understand the operation and how they work with what the manufacturer gives them. And I also understand the safety standards to a very deep level, and how all that works. And then it has also worked out that my team at TÜV SÜD, I met them through the competition. They had volunteered as judges in the first year of the competition, and I had stayed in contact with them since, and they loved what I've been able to do with the competition and what our team has been able to do, and they were super excited about giving me the time and resources to continue investing in the competition and seeing the dividends of what that brings the industry overall in all of these young people gaining that experience as they come in. So, yeah, that's the latest of my story. So here is a quick look at the competition itself and some of the things that we've had at the competition. We have teams build these small rides for Starburst Candy riders. Um, and then we give them the full engineering experience and documentation and challenge that's in there too. So to talk a little bit more about the competition, I had been involved with a lot of different engineering clubs, as I had mentioned, and we had seen all of these hands-on engineering clubs that get tons of funding and resources and are very well uh, respected and known to give a very good experience to the students who go through it. And when I came into ASTM as a student and I started meeting other students, the thing that I heard all the time was that students were uh, so focused on the amusement industry that they felt that anything unrelated to the industry was a waste of time. And so they wouldn't do it. So they would only do clubs and competitions that were related to the industry. And at the time, we had nothing in the industry that was hands-on. Everything was you finish with a PowerPoint presentation about this ride concept that you've come up with. And that, to me, in my experience, was a red flag of, well, but the hands-on experience is really important. We really need that. So if those students aren't going to go out and do these hands-on competitions from other industries, maybe we can take inspiration and bring that to this industry. So our mission became to provide students with real-world experience that prepares them for careers in the amusement industry. As much as we can, focus it on this industry, um, while also giving, general engineering experience. Engineering is 95% identical no matter what you do, but that 5% is really important and niche and unique for us. So that was really important to us. So we want to introduce specific things that students might not normally be introduced to, except for like maybe a little bit of a taste during your senior design. Otherwise, most of these concepts are not covered. Like doing a risk assessment. Everything we do in the amusement industry that is safety related comes back to a risk assessment. It is our guiding document throughout the entire process. The ASTM standards and knowing what a standard is. How do you read it? How do you show compliance to it? Um, that is a huge part of engineers' jobs is understanding the standards around and knowing how to use them. And that's not, we've never seen that taught at the undergraduate level, which is crazy to me because it's such a huge part of the job. Um, Doing the reporting behind the systems engineering. Not just engineering is not just building, it's documenting and verifying and going through that systematic process of making sure that what you're building is the right thing and that it is verified to some level of due diligence. Having site acceptance testing, having design reviews, um, where people get used to sharing their ideas with outside people and getting feedback and being able to work in that feedback. And then more of the fun stuff that we do in our industry, like theming and marketing and innovation, that side as well. So far we've had over 540 students go through the program from 26 different universities. Um, and we've had 48 functional ride models. You guys are on there. Um, this coming year, we are planning on doing uh, 32 universities, 32 different teams just this year with about 350 students um, and 32 ride models. So we're growing very rapidly. And we hope to continue to grow as long as there's interest. It's a interesting challenge for us, and I think our burden to figure out how to continue scaling and bring this opportunity to as many people as we can. So during our season, we have teams design, analyze, and manufacture their ride, and then on our final event, we have teams verify their ride, and then the most important thing for us is we provide feedback. We get as big of a team of judges as we can, and then we split them out into small sections so that they can spend lots of time giving detailed feedback on specific deliverables and specific subsections of those deliverables. The most technical competition in the industry before this one involved a 2 to 3 month development cycle, and then at the end of it, teams would receive a score and about 3 to 4 sentences of feedback total on the entire project. And that to me was ridiculous. I am one in the camp of I instruct the judges to destroy the teams in the comments. Um, you know, nicety is good, but if you don't directly tell them what they've done wrong or what they're missing or what is between where they are now and where they expected to be as professionals, then they can't get there. The most helpful thing that we can do is tell you exactly the steps that you need to take to get where you want to be. So we instruct the judges to be very strict on that. Over the years, we started through Iowa State University. We were hosted by the club there. We ran it virtually for 2 years, and then we took it independent. We are now a nonprofit in the state of Florida. We started having it in person at Carowinds for 2 years. And then with the merger between Cedar Fair and Six Flags, our connection at Carowinds and his entire department were dissolved and we suddenly had no connection with Carowinds anymore to figure out a venue. So we partnered with Ohio State and we had it at site last year, as some of your members were there for. And then 2026, we have just announced, and I'll talk about that in a second. This is our first event at Carowinds that we were in person. 1 year later, we had about tripled the size of the event and the number of people that were there. And then here was a quick view of last year's event as well. Over 100 people crammed into that tiny room. We have resolved that for this year, and we have a very, very, very big room that we have slated with lots of space for all the teams. So we're really excited about that as well. This was something from a different presentation, but I thought it was interesting to see over the years that we've done the competition. So we're now in our 6th year. The first year we did flat rides in this box. Second year we did pretty much the same thing with all of the teams building functional rides. Then we did roller coasters, and we uh, had specific design for the track and the chassis given to all the teams to reduce the scope of the roller coaster to something that was reasonable. Because roller coasters, half of the engineering is in the track and the layout and the systems that are there, and the other half is all in the vehicle chassis. And so the smaller that gets to fit it within the size box that we try to, keep it a size that could fit in a van um, it gets all that engineering gets harder and harder as it gets smaller and smaller. So we decided, okay, that would be too tough for all the teams to keep up with. So let's give them a design that we know already works and have them design a system around it. They'll still do their rider containment and restraints, and their track and their systems around it. And that'll be a good amount of challenge. The year after, we added our own elevator lift so that teams could actually run their rides continuously. The year before, we just had teams like catch their car at the bottom and bring it back to the top and drop it back in on the top. That was like, yeah, it was a little okay. We made it, but nah, that was not as pretty as we wanted it to be. So the next year we built functional elevator lists for every single team, and they were very expensive. But it was super cool. We had all these roller coasters going. We had 12 teams that year. The next year we went back to flat rides, but changed up our scoring quite a bit. This last year we introduced the factory acceptance testing and the site acceptance testing, and we looked at expanding even more. So we went from 4 teams to 12 teams to 20 teams in 3 years. And then this past year, our team has grown as we've had more alumni from the competition leaving and joining us and helping us plan things for the future. And then more interest as we've gone through the years. So this year, we've just announced our portable ride challenge. So we're expecting to have 32 teams at our final competition, and it is a similar challenge to last year with a flat ride design, but during the competition day, you will have to deconstruct your ride down into a smaller, what we call the portable envelope, something that could be transported on a truck, and then reconstruct your ride and get it back into operation during the day. And I-27 will, yeah, we'll work on that later. We've got some ideas. Um, Here is the announcement for this year's game. Um, some of you may have seen this, but we haven't really done a whole marketing push to push this out there. So this is still uh, uh, pretty new for most people. So enjoy. Let me know if there's audio. In fact, get into the settings, your computer sound. There. Okay.
Welcome to the 2026 Ride Engineering Competition. Thrills on the go! This year's challenge. Teams will design, engineer, and manufacture amusement rides for candy riders, featuring elevation, rotation, and at least 2 Gs of acceleration. To keep the thrills portable, rides will arrive disassembled, small enough to fit in our transport, and you'll be amazed as teams assemble, disassemble, and reassemble their rides throughout the day. So, how's the competition work? Well, teams will follow professional industry practices as they conceptualize their ride, conduct a risk assessment, and show compliance to the ASTM F2291 safety standard, perform design reviews, and build calculation reports, drawing packages, and factory acceptance tests. The final rides will receive additional points for performance, theming, and site acceptance testing. Industry professional judges will provide detailed feedback and scores for documentation and final ride performance, and crown 2 winners. That's right, to allow for more teams than ever before, 2 independent competitions will be hosted simultaneously, with 16 teams representing the East and 16 teams representing the West, allowing for 32 total teams. So, how's the scoring work? Well, teams will gain points for documentation, for their rides, and for their outreach, but they may lose points for failing their site acceptance tests and for having a more expensive ride than their competitors. Want to join? Registration is open from September 27th to November 8th, with our final event on Saturday, April 11th, 2026. Teams need at least 3 members and a faculty advisor to compete, and you may add or replace members throughout the season. Now, registration consists of a team registration, as well as individual member registration and season fees of $30 per student. Separate event registration in March opens up for the members traveling to the event. Only 32 teams can compete, so submit your team registration as soon as possible to secure your team's spot. Visit rideengineeringcompetition.org for more details and to register your team, or to sign up for information about becoming a judge, a sponsor, or even a future competitor. The clock is ticking, so don't wait. We'll see you there.
All right. So yeah, as I mentioned, this challenge of taking the rides, deconstructing them down, and then rebuilding them back up. We also have different riders this year. So rather than Starburst, we are switching over to Jolly Rancher Chews, um, which are slightly different shape and facing a new orientation from what the Starburst were. Um, but the big reason for this change to a different brand is our venue is going to be Hershey Lodge in Hershey, Pennsylvania, right next to Hershey Park. So we went through their entire catalog looking for a candy that they have that's comparable and meets our needs, and we found exactly one. So that's gonna be the one. Um, yeah, we just announced all this on Saturday. And out of our 32 teams, we already have 17 signed up. So we're more than halfway. So if you guys are putting together a team to compete, I encourage you to sign up as soon as possible, because we don't know when or if that 32 team slots will fill up. So do uh, get that in as soon as you can. But that was me rambling for 45 minutes about all of my stuff in my life and my career. Thank you very much for listening. I'll send this whole PowerPoint to you guys so that you have it. Um, but my contact information is there. Please reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions about, any aspects of my career or about the competition, shoot me an email and I'd be happy to answer your questions and tell you all about it. But thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really interesting and it was a great talk. First I'm gonna send actually about rec, I'm gonna send out an interest form to our members right now. So whoever's interested, please fill out that form and then we're gonna get a team together as soon as possible, like you said. And while people are doing that, I also wanted to open the floor up to any questions. I'm sure a lot of people have things to ask. So yeah, if anybody wants to ask him any questions. No, you can just unmute.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I
Yeah.
didn't want to
Yep,
accidentally talk
go
over
for it.
anyone. Okay, I was really interested by what you mentioned um about your work with IAPA earlier and like the stuff with like the young professional stuff. And I received a scholarship to go to IAPA in November. I was wondering if you have any recommendations as to like what to do as a young professional there. I know it's kind of different from ride engineering competition, but I was curious.
No, absolutely. So congratulations, first off.
Thank you.
It's been awesome to see the IAPA Foundation come together in the last couple of years and start having those sponsorships. So that's super exciting. Um, uh, IAPA is always interesting as a young professional because we have a young professionals task group that we do everything we can to uh, you know create opportunities for young professionals and showcase young professionals and have that be a major part of it. Um, but it's always true that at the end of the day, IAPA is a trade show. It's a sales floor, right? It's where most of the companies arrive and will do 50-80% of their annual business in 3 days on the IAPA show floor. So business is happening everywhere, and as a student, you're not gonna, you don't have millions of dollars to offer to buy a ride. So there's an understanding there and a humility to have about the event as a whole isn't about us, the young people. But that doesn't mean that we're not welcomed with open arms and we don't have a lot of opportunities there. So um, I'll start with a shameless self plug. Monday of IAPA from 12 to 1:30, there's a Pursue Your Passions workshop that I'm doing along with a few of my colleagues and friends where we're talking about roadblocks in career planning in the industry and how navigating your career as a young professional works and some advice for that. So I recommend that. In general, there are a series of young professional focused talks, and on the agenda online, there should be a young professional tag that you can click on and view all of those. Um, on Tuesday night is the young professionals reception. I highly encourage that one. It's at the same time or the same night as the TEA International Mixer, which is a big event. It'll be at Epic Universe this year. It's more expensive, so if you have the money, that one is also a great event to go to network with a lot of higher up people. But I always love the Young Professionals reception because you'll meet a lot of people who are a couple years ahead and are there to talk to you, um, and hear about your wants and needs and give you the time to tell you some advice that's actually going to be pertinent to you right now and is going to be immediately helpful, and help connect you with those higher up people who might be key to that growth in the short term. So I always recommend that one. Um, because of the focus on sales, the first couple days especially, a lot of booths don't really have time to talk to students. But later in the week, Thursday, Friday, they often have a lot of time and enjoy talking to students then. So as much as you can, um, focus on, getting your bearings, exploring, meeting a few people on the first couple days, and then on the last couple days, do your rounds, visit all kinds of the booths that you've seen that are interesting, and try to, yeah, work the network as much as you can. Um, but it's crazy. It is an entire amusement park in a building. Um, it's a wild time. You're gonna have a great time. Invest in meeting all the other students as well. In a couple of years, they are going to be your fellow professionals. It's been wild for me to see all of the people my age who were students and are now working at every roller coaster manufacturer around the world. I know somebody at, which is crazy. So, uh, yeah, meet everybody. Wear good shoes. Uh, your feet will hate you by the end of the week, but it will be worth it. Um, yeah, you're gonna have a great time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Yep.
I was wondering, how like so you're a mechanical engineer. I was wondering how you as an engineer like built your portfolio. Like what did you put in it? Like what did you do throughout your college? Like what did you put in that portfolio?
Yeah, I was able to uh I was a bit ahead of the curve as far as engineers go of like actually building website. I did a free Weebly website and just started putting like one paragraph about a project and as many pictures as I could. And I immediately realized, like, wow, I should have taken way more pictures. Um, of there were entire like 6 month projects where I had two photos from the entire thing, and that's all I could show. And I was like, dang, okay, there's a lot more to this, but I guess this is all I have. Um, So that's a lesson that I would give you is every time you go through a project, take as many photos and like get as much documentation as you can. Um, Write stuff down and take photos and hold on to them so that you can talk about it and show it to people. Um, but then at the same time, I would say that uh, even though I had all of that stuff on a portfolio website, I don't know that anyone looked at it. I've never heard from anyone who actually looked at it. It was a really helpful practice for me to go through and make it so that I could understand how to communicate uh, each project and understand like what is the story? What is the narrative here? How did we start this? Why did we do it? What did we learn along the way? And what did we, what were our setbacks and what did we ultimately achieve? Organizing memories in that way helped it so that if I was asked about, um, in interviews, you're asked about what was the time when you experienced a setback and overcame it. And now I've got this organized, stories of different projects in my head where I can easily select like, oh, okay, we had that in this project. and then I can talk about that really easily. So, um, yeah, it doesn't really matter how you do it, but I recommend you don't need to spend any money on it. But I would advise to spend time, even if nobody looks at it, just to go through the process of organizing in that way. Will help you talk about it and will inform when you do the next project of like, ooh, okay, I've organized these thoughts and learned moments from my previous project that now that I'm seeing a similar situation and this didn't end well last time. So let's change it right now so that we don't fall into the same trap. Um, that just helps with that as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm having a great time. I don't know.
Okay, I'm glad. Okay, I had a
This is
question
super cool.
as well. So I know with like roller coasters, it's a very unique field because it definitely blends a lot of like themed entertainment, but then also like with more technical aspects. I was wondering how like what you personally like what your experience with like blending those like two like very different fields, like because I know you worked at like Universal, which is very like themed, and then right now you're working as an engineering slash auditor, which are can be two very different, but like the intersection of them, like what your experience with that has been like.
It's something where I came into it from I was very different from a lot of people I knew here in Orlando because I didn't come into this industry because I loved themed entertainment. I came in because I liked physics and uh, I like a I like a challenge and I like big machines. And so, growing up in the Midwest around pretty much all the coasters we had were, they had a themed name and a paint, but other than that, they were a coaster on either a parking lot or a grassy hill. And that's it. That's all we had. It was just a machine, and that's what I really loved about it. And then when I started getting involved in the industry and saw the safety side of things and the safety engineering, safety standards side of the industry, I fell in love with that a lot. Of this is this huge challenge that we have of threading the needle of making something that's super safe, but it's a prototype every single time we make it. We don't get to build 300 of the same thing like the aviation industry does. We are operating on a shoestring budget on everything that we do, and yet it still has to meet that standard of safety. It's a crazy challenge. It's objectively stupid business model. Nobody would do that unless they were crazy passionate about it, like we are. So it's a challenge that we choose, and that's something that's really exciting to me. It's, objectively, we're not saving the world in a direct way. We'll make the world a better place, but we're not solving an immediate problem. We entirely created the problem space that we're in, and yet we've made it as hard as possible for us to succeed in that. And that's a really exciting challenge for me. Um, so coming into Orlando and the more Disney Universal themed side of things, that was very foreign to me. And the way that I've come to lean into it is by coming into it from the engineering background that I have and looking at theming in terms of how do you um, how do you make something that looks like a wooden lamppost, but is actually super strong and robust and weatherproof and uh, inexpensive and fast to build. Um, and yet looks right. And that's how you end up with these, steel and fiberglass wood pieces that come into theme parks to accomplish this. this look that the creatives had. Um, you know, what's deeper in there is what's interesting to me. And then like even when I was at Universal, the thematic side of it was fun, but where I got most of my joy was sort of internally auditing our operation everywhere I could. Of every training that I got and every position that I learned, I was thinking about, okay, what are the challenges that this has? What is the aspects where we could communicate better, we could approach this in an even better way, and what are the hazards that could be a problem that, yes, 99% of the time we're never going to face that. But if this situation happens, what is our plan to do it, and um, what are the sudden challenges that we will have in that moment, that hopefully doesn't happen but could. So sort of running risk assessments in my mind all the time and pointing at stuff and saying, I like that sign. I don't like that sign at all, and we need another sign over there because this is a really really critical point and it's not there. Was that my job there? No. That was very much a role that would be very way above my pay grade. But if a lesson that I learned uh, sort of in college, and this is part of why I ended up running this ride engineering competition with no experience in like running an organization or anything like that, is uh, maybe I'm not the best person to do this, but if I don't do this, is anyone else going to do it? I don't know. So I'm going to do it anyway. Um, with cognizance about the right way to do it and keeping liability in mind and stuff like that. But um, learning, okay, even if this isn't technically my job, um, it will make our goals be met better. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it upon myself to help our greater goals, as long as I'm able to continue doing my job at the same time. I forget what the question was.
Thank you. I actually have a follow-up question after
Okay.
that. So, like you said, like roller coaster design and like ride engineering can be like a very daunting task, like with all like the safety concerns, and it's very intricate and different from like all of the other engineering fields. So I know especially maybe like with like ride engineering competition, we have like a lot of first year students, like people who are still like figuring out what they want to do. Like maybe a technical competition like this can be very daunting. So I was wondering like what kind of skills that you would like recommend for people, or like where to start if they do want to get involved in like the more technical side, but they just like don't know where to start when there's so many things they can do.
Yeah. Um, the the main piece of advice that I would give is, and this might sound counterintuitive when you feel like there's so many options you don't know what to do. Um, but that is sort of, I pick one and start. Um, you don't have to wait for uh, a job. You don't have to wait to be hired to do the field of work that you want to do. You might not have resources yet. You might not be able to do it at a big scale. Um, but like for me, I wanted to work on designing roller coasters and designing roller coaster components. And so I used my 3D printer and I made tiny model roller coasters. Um, is it the full scale thing? No, but it is the thing. And so I was able to just start getting experience and doing things wrong, making mistakes, trying crazy ideas and seeing part of it work and part of it fail. Um, that and as you're as you come in as a young person, and what I've learned is this continues as you continue to grow, be a person, and be a different person throughout your life. Um, the best thing that you can do is try as many different things as you can, and in trying that, you'll notice the work that you enjoy doing and the work that you don't enjoy doing. And then when you find that that work that, for other people is a slog and that class that they hate, but for you is something that you would do in your free time, um, because it gives you energy. It's exciting for you. When you find those things, lean into those and become better at that than anybody else, because then we will hire you to do that thing. Um, I've met a lot of students and young people who they have a passion for thematic design and ride concept, and they at some point they got in their head that I can't do anything unless I get my engineering degree, to be an Imagineer or whatever I want to be. And so they spend years pushing themselves through an engineering degree that they don't enjoy. That's a huge slog for them. And then they finally graduate and they want to be hired to do thematic things, but nobody's hiring them for that. They're only hiring them for engineering roles, but they don't want to do engineering roles, but that's all that they have credentials in. So, um, I really encourage you to lean into the things that you like to do. Find the thing that you love to do. There is no, you have to have this certain piece of paper to do uh, things in this industry. We cover every aspect of everything that is done in terms of making things and operating things and decommissioning things. Um, Everything is there. So don't force yourself through things that you don't enjoy, because once you've done them, we'll want to hire you to do that thing. And if you don't enjoy it, then you're not going to enjoy working in that either. And lean into and become fantastic at the things that you do love to do so that it's a no-brainer for us to hire you to do what you love.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's all the questions I had, unless like like to open it up again.
Hi. Um, I sort of had just about like two-ish like smaller questions. So you said you did Vekoma in the Netherlands?
I was working here in Orlando, but I was visiting the Netherlands
Okay.
every couple months.
What part of the Netherlands were you visiting?
Their headquarters is in the southern tip of the Netherlands, about 5 minutes from the German border, in a tiny village called Vlodrop.
Okay.
It's like 150 people, or
Okay.
like 500. There's a couple hundred people who live in the village. It's like tiny houses, a church, a couple more houses, and then a roller coaster prototype. It's a really
Awesome.
odd spot. They were founded as a as an agricultural um, machine company, and
Oh,
then in the 70s and 80s and 90s they ended up going into amusement rides. And now they only do pretty much exclusively roller coasters, a couple non-coaster rides, but um, yeah, it
okay.
just
That's it.
popped up in the middle of nowhere. They're literally, the other side of them is a strawberry field.
Oh,
Like
awesome.
it's farmland
That
mostly around it.
makes
It's a
sense.
really odd spot, but beautiful. Oh,
hmm
gorgeous spot.
My other question was, so you mentioned the IAPA Young Ambassadors program. Do you know, obviously, like probably not for this year because IAPA is like literally in the month, but do you know like when the applications for that or like how to get involved in that program
They
might
change
open
it
up?
kind of every year, as they've been scaling for the uh, global expos throughout the year. So I don't know exactly when it'll be. Probably spring into early summer. is when they'll do applications. And then I know that in the last 2 or 3 weeks, those who got picked for this year got their uh, confirmations.
Okay.
So
Sick. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
early summer. Keep an eye out.
Okay.
It should be posted on the IAPA website
Okay.
as to what that schedule is at least a month or two ahead of time.
Awesome.
Hopefully,
Thank you
not a
so
month too
much.
late.
Okay, so if that's everybody who has questions, then I think we're getting to wrap up here, ready to wrap up here. I don't want to keep you too late, Charlie, because I know it's pretty late for you. Especially since we started a bit late, but it was a great talk you gave today. Like it was all like really fascinating, really interesting. And I know everybody was like just really happy to hear about like your journey and like how you ended up here and like the field. And
Yeah, thank you all so much for
Ho-
having me. This is
hopefully
I've enjoyed it.
we'll see you at the competition
Yes.
at
Yeah,
August.
sign up soon. I just had Team 18 just signed up a minute ago. So
Okay. All right. Well, we'll make sure to get on that then. Thank you so much for coming and having this talk with us
yeah.
today.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, if you have any additional questions for me, reach out.
Mhm.
And Emma's got my information, and I'll send you that
We'll make
information as
sure
well.
to send that meeting recording and all any contact information out to
Perfect.
people who couldn't make it today as well.